want to welcome all of you. I'm Lisa with Office Centers and Virtual Office Centers, and we are thrilled that you're here with us today. Do we have an amazing speaker, and are we honored to have this guy here, or what? David Goldman.
Or what?
Woo-hoo! Do you know that, I mean, your credentials are just over the top. David toured internationally as a stand-up comic and keynote speaker. He opened for Jerry Seinfeld, Ellen DeGeneres, and Jeff Dunham. Is that cool or what? Love it. David created and wrote humorous content for ABC News, CBS MarketWatch, and Gary Shenlin. Currently, David writes humor for C-level executives, professional speakers, and entrepreneurs who want to deliver presentations that capture attention, are memorable and actionable. Today, we are going to learn how to use humor to engage the human nature of customers and prospects and walk away with solid content that you can use in your organization. We are ready to rock. And David says, you don't have to be funny unless you want to make money. So with that, we get to welcome David Goldman.
Could you just remind everyone to turn off your phones? Okay, if you could silence your phones, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, can I have that intro again, because that was a kind of a breakup. The energy. How is everybody?
Good.
How are the rest of you? I'm in a good mood because I've kept my New Year's resolution to get Weight Watchers. I've lost 12 pounds since I get there.
Congrats.
The only problem is Weight Watchers isn't very guy friendly. I'm always the only guy there. Every time you do something well, they give you a trinket. You notice that? You get a trinket for 5 pounds and 10 pounds. You do something nice, you get a trinket. And after about 5 months, I've got a handful of these. And I said, what are they for? And they said they're charms for a charm bracelet. So, good news is I'm only one charm away from being Liberace. 2 from being Caitlyn Jenner.
Very good.
Too soon? So I'm feeling good. I look good. My teenage son says, Dad, you should get a toupee because you'll look even better. And the problem is if you get a toupee, you pretty much have to move to a new town. I mean, you can't show up to work the next day. You know? So nobody's going to notice. So, hey, Dad, you look good. Would you give me a shirt? Hey, nice charm bracelet. That looks good. Okay, so we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about humor sells, but the key thing is that about humor, it's the people who are successful today, and I see some of them here that we've talked to in the past, are the ones who can communicate on a personal level, connect on a personal level with their clients. And there's, I believe, no better way to do that than with humor. And one of the problems is that we have so much noise to compete with. Right? There's such a low barrier of entry for a lot of your competition. So I see people who are consulting and anything. All I have to do now is get a website and to do that. So there's a lot of competition everywhere. And we have so much stress in our lives, but our clients have even more stress because they have all this noise coming at them. And the problem is that our clients can't tell the difference between these physical threats and perceived threats that we face in everyday life. I mean, do you have clients calling you all the time wanting information because they have so much to look at? I know when I was a stockbroker in 93 or 94, I had a client who would call me every day with something from the Wall Street Journal. He had to talk to me and say, hey, I saw this in the journal. Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that. It drove me nuts. Do you have any of those clients? Drive you nuts? So what I did is I called the Wall Street Journal. I pretended that I was him, and I canceled his subscription. First few days were great. And after a couple of weeks, I got worried. So I called him at home to see if he was okay. And his wife picked up the phone. He said, oh, yeah, he's fine. As a matter of fact, he played golf this morning. Now he's making sandwiches with the grandkids. I said, oh, great. She said, David, I know that you're the one who canceled the Wall Street Journal. Because I called them up. And they told me what happened. It had to be you. She said, I want to thank you. Because now we can focus on the important things in life instead of worrying about investments and things like that. So thank you. I said, you're welcome, Mom. So what happens when we face all of this stress? Like I said, our minds can't tell the difference between real physical threat, like a gun to your head, and a perceived threat when you walk up here and you find out Shannon's looking for you because you bounce check. You're check bounce. I learned this about, I'll take this idea from pain. When you stub your toe or you hurt your shoulder, and I'm sure you would hate to hear this, it's all in your brain. Right? No, it's in my shoulder. What happens when you stub your toe or hurt your shoulder? Through the neural pathways, your signal goes and says, hey, I'm in pain, right? So with all these neural pathways running up saying you're in pain, whether it's a real physical threat or a perceived threat, there are some things that you can do to lower that pain or block those pain things. Like what does the doctor say? Diet, exercise, meditation, drugs. But one of the things they don't talk a lot about is laughter. Laughter has been scientifically proven to reduce stress and tension and lower pain. Laughter has many of the same benefits as diet, exercise, and meditation, and it's free. When you laugh, you inhale, which brings oxygen to your muscles and organs, and your pores open and you sweat. That's exercise. And again, if you have no brain, you have no pain. It's proven at Stanford University that 100 hearty laughs a day is equal to 10 minutes of jogging for its aerobic impact. We're blessed as human beings. We're blessed as human beings to have that ability to laugh because other creatures on this planet can't laugh. Who's got pets? You ever seen them laugh?
I feel like he does.
What's that?
It feels like it.
It feels like
it
it.
sometimes.
They smile, but they can't laugh. A French researcher did a study and found that when an animal laughs, it's missing a connective membrane to get the laughter. We have a special membrane that connects our heart sheath, and when we laugh, it gets everything vibrating and we have laughter. And I just totally butchered the explanation, but 99% of people, except for Mary, understand what right? Mary, if you have a question, Mary will bring it up for you. But they can't laugh, which is why my dog doesn't like practical jokes. You ever play practical jokes on your pets? You know you do. My dog was sleeping really quietly, and my boys and I stuck a paw in warm water. We tried the same thing to my wife's cat. He jumped in my bed and peed on my pillow. So where does this all come into effect for us, right? As professionals, and you're trying to reach out, how does this affect us? We're having a lot of fun. But when you're reaching out to, when you're speaking, whether it's a large group or if it's a one-on-one, how does humor come into play? The first thing about humor is it creates an optimal learning environment. People relax. They're not stressed. Think of the conference that you've gone to. Are there any engineers in here? Right? Okay, we'll talk slower. I should ask first. But if you go to an engineering conference or a legal conference, you're filled with all these meetings that are very technical, right? And then you see a meeting that might be interesting or fun, or the person who's doing the presentations tells stories. People are relaxed and looking forward to hearing that presentation. Or if anybody has gone to like church or to synagogue where the pastor or rabbi is good at telling stories, you really look forward to that. It helps capture attention. Humor is great at capturing attention because you don't see people at a comedy show flipping through and checking their phones all the time, right? I started comedy 29 years ago in Toronto, and a buddy of mine, I started with these guys I'll talk about in a minute. We had our own mastermind, and he fills up theaters now. He's a big deal. And he was in a theater, and he saw the blue light. He was pissed. He stopped the show, pointed around, and said, hey, we're doing a comedy show. It's really rude that you pull out your cell phone during the middle of my show. She said, well, I was just tweeting people to tell them that they should come to the second show. Such a good show. You capture attention. I worked with Jeff Dunham on tour with him. And if you don't know, he's the guy who does puppets. And people are mesmerized by the puppet, which is funny because I like watching the audiences more than I watch the comics. Just the reactions. And people start getting mad after a couple of drinks. They're getting mad at the puppets. I can't believe you'd say that. It's the hand. It's just his hand. But when they see that humor, whether it's just a person talking or a puppet or something shiny, people get mesmerized by it and they capture their attention completely. Because when people are laughing, they're not doing other things. But enough about my wedding night. Okay. Most of what you see, I wrote just for today. And does it work? I don't know. It's 25 people disappointed. No, I'm just kidding. People remember when you use humor. They remember the great stories. They remember the jokes. You can remember things as your kids, some of the funny moments. I remember when I got in trouble in 8th grade, my teacher, Mr. Reinhardt, said to me, Goldman, I'll give you 4.5 reasons why you should not have done that. And he was the math teacher, but also the shop teacher. So those are the kinds of things. So think of your favorite salespeople. Sometimes people sell to you, and you think about what are the fun, interesting things that they say to maybe break the ice or keep you interested in. You want to be that person, right? Or maybe you have a big toothbrush. The minute I met you, I saw the toothbrush. I haven't forgotten it. I went to your office to say hi. I remember some of the things you talked about.
I know how to use it.
Yes, you do know how to. Okay. But you're not sneaking up on anybody with that. Like a taste for that toothbrush. But that's a perfect example of the things that I remember because it's out of the ordinary. And it, gets a conversation going. And people take action. People are more willing to take action because you lower the barrier, lower their stress level. And for a lot of you and the businesses that you're in, it's really important to be able to do that, to get that one-on-one connection. So I buy, my office mates laugh at me, but I got a Subaru, and I'll get there eventually. Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but 97% of Subarus are still on the road. Half of those are on the side of the road. But the guy who sold them, I bought my 3 Subarus from him. He's just a great guy, and I trust him. Because we walk into car dealerships, guys especially. This guy's not going to get me, that kind of thing. But in a situation like that, you're up against competition. That's when I have that one-on-one, connect with somebody personally. And one thing I have written down there is audience. It really depends on what your audience is. Every time I've spoken to audiences, when I was 25, I did a cruise ship with everybody who's over 75 years old, at least 75. And that was a different presentation than it would be in a younger crowd. So you really need to know your audience and understand what you're talking about a little bit more. This is really interesting. Psychology today talked about likability. Do people like you? Actually, really matters for most of us in what we do. Likability is king. It's a key predictor in success. You create a personal bond or friendship when you're likable, and people who are likable are 2 times more likely to get business. So, of course, humor is part of that way of connecting. Humor is part of the way of building trust. It might open the door, but humor is not going to get you the whole sale, of course. You have to have some substance behind that in all of you do. I was told. And to like them first. This is a little secret that I learned from my boss. He used to say, go out and make friends. Part of making friends and getting them to like you first is showing a genuine interest in who they are. And they know if you're faking it. They know if you really do or do not like them. They might come in as, I'm a likable person. I've done very well in life. I know the product line. I know all this and that. Because there's a lot of people who know what you do about products that you do. But if I trust you first, I trust any of you first, I'm going to do business with you. So what are the things that you can do to become likable, right? Show interest in them. What are some of the questions that you asked? Now, this is the point where you put down your remote control. Some of you are like, he's on every channel. It's okay, it'll be funny next time. Right, so interaction is where I'm going with this. What are some of the things you ask a prospect or a client to learn more about that?
What do you like to do for fun?
What do you like to do for fun is a great one, right? Because sometimes you're really like, oh, wow, really? you never would have thought. Right? Maybe they went to a certain university, they like a certain sport you never would have thought. You could strike up a conversation. Because once you get those conversations going, and you can bring their family and other interests, and you've really made it easier to make that connection. Who else?
Where do you come from? What's important to you?
Yeah, where do you come from? Okay, these are things we'll have some fun with in a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, was that actually a question? Or? And some people just are not likable, like millennials. I don't like that at all. Yeah, I like them at all. I'm sorry, what's the age of a millennial? I don't even know. I might have a few in there. 80 to 30. Is it to 30?
No, 35.
30.
I was gonna say.
34.
But you're so different than them.
Yes,
Thank
she is.
Yes.
Thanks.
My rent just went up. Something about you. Now, one of the things I noticed when I started doing it, I've written for a lot of people, and one of the comedians I wrote for was Gary Shandling, and we are working on the Tonight Show, the Emmys, and his HBO special. And what made it easy was, if you ever seen Gary Shandling, if you're a man, did you know him?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Saw him in Vegas a couple times.
So when he was on stage and when he walked off stage, he was the same guy. He's the same neurotic Jew, right, who I knew everything about, and he was easy to write for. So the thing that I found with people who were taking my comedy class 25 plus years ago is they didn't know who they were. They didn't know they were interested. Even the C-level people that I work with right now don't think they're really that interesting, except for you. So I have a guy who some of you know. He was the CEO of Lawson Software at the age of 41. He was fast track. XRS Technology took it from 12 million to 180 million. Boom. He's pretty much semi-retired. I'll take a mess. And your table's ready. But, got 3 or 4 more and I'll waste them. So what he would do, he's walk on stage. He's talking about success now, right? Semi-retired, and some of you met him. I don't know if many of you met him. Jay Coughlin. I mean, this guy is the best. So he's in his mid-50s. He's giving back by teaching about success. That dude, and he's a really good-looking guy. He's tall. He looks like a CEO, dresses like a CEO. Everything about him is success. So he goes up and talks to these groups, and they introduce him with all his accolades, and people are like, well, look at him. Of course he's successful. So I sat down with him. I asked him some questions. Tell me about growing up. Tell me about your life. What are some hardships? Well, he grew up in like the worst part of Philadelphia. He went to community college. All his contemporaries went to, right? He took this company public, and he had all those backgrounds. He went to jail. He did these different things. I said, that's interesting. That makes you relevant, right? And endearing. So instead of this opening show, with all his accolades, I had him open with a story about growing up in Philadelphia at the age of 12, delivering beer for his dad in the ghetto.
Wow.
What a great story, because now, this is all disappearing. He's a regular, well, not even a regular guy. I feel better than him. I grew up in the tough part of New Hope. And there's this point of view that you have. Many times when people start in sales, your own business, you figure out, okay, here's the chassis, the sales script that I have to keep to. Well, people know when it's not real. People know when you're faking it. So what is your true point of view? So an example is the exercise we're going to do. I had a kid who was 15 in Seattle, Washington, where Mary Kay Letourneau had an affair with her student. They had a kid together. Does anybody remember Mary Kay Letourneau? That was a big deal then. Apparently, it's got a custom now. So he goes up on stage in a theater of about 300 people. He goes up, and this kid looks like Bill Gates. He's 15, and they look at him, and he says, opens up with Mary Kay Letourneau. And at that time, it was very sensitive. Everybody's like, he said, I don't know if I can say this. He said, my teacher won't even let me bang the erasers. Everybody looked to Lori, is it okay to laugh? And we had we got a lot, I used to go to a cabin in the mountains outside Seattle, and we wrote down that one person in your life who said you're not funny, or that you're a loser. Wrote it down, explained it, talked about it, and then took that and threw it in the fire. It was really cool. But things came out about people you would never know. We had two women who are very similar if you look at them, except for one is a woman. One was a Wiccan and one was a born-again Christian. They both had 2 kids. They had very similar areas, but you have to speak from who you are, from your point of view, because it makes it interesting, makes your story interesting, makes your comedy interesting, right? And believable. So we're going to do an exercise for 40 minutes. We're going to just kind of do a fun thing. We're going to team up in 2s, or if it doesn't work out in 3s, it does work in 2s. 3 back there. And you're going to interview each other. You're going to ask you a few questions, like where are you from? What's important to you? How many kids do you have? I have a client who's he's at the Federal Reserve as an economist at the Fed. He's in his head all the time with numbers. I said, well, tell me how many kids. And so I grew up with 11 kids in my family. And then, no, hold on a second. That's interesting, right? So ask each other some questions. What are some of the things, what's something interesting in your life that happened to you? Who's a star that you brushed into? Do you have a near-death experience? She actually has an appointment, so. No, right?
This is bullshit.
Right
You told me to
there.
say that.
I'm not funny.
No, you are. She sits 4 feet away from me, so she can get away with it. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes, ask each other some questions.
Go.
Okay.
You wanted to laugh out, so I did.
It was good for the first 4 or 5 minutes, and then for some of you, it turned into therapy. I saw that. Oh, good Lord.
Everybody was trying to figure out how to get out of this room as easy as she did.
Well, she told me yesterday.
Okay.
Is it okay if I come halfway through? Or leave halfway? Well, she is now. So does everybody know Deirdre and Mary? The 2 of my 3 office mates.
And Kristen's speaking in St. Paul, so she's
Yeah.
not here.
And Deirdre's talking, and Deirdre teaches people how to speak.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I asked her to leave. So what are some of the things that you found out that you didn't think, that were like, oh, wow, that's interesting? You were talking that long, you had something.
Could not believe that Judy grew up on a farm.
I do not see that.
No, I didn't see it.
Farm
And
girl.
I've known her for a long time.
That's right.
Farmer,
Farm girl?
Yeah.
And I learned that Lori grew up on Payne Avenue in St. Paul.
Payne Avenue?
Payne Avenue.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Now, what's the significance of Payne Avenue? I don't know.
I was gonna say it's the lower end of Payne Avenue. It's a really tough neighborhood. It used to be a really Italian neighborhood at one time. But I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in St. Paul.
Wow.
That's why she's so tough now. She
Yeah.
has to protect herself.
We always gotta remember where we come from, right, Judy? That's what we decided.
It's still Italian.
And together, you guys are quite the
Still-
combo.
you're still Italian.
You know, the farm girl and the
Yeah.
mafia girl.
Yeah.
There's a TV show there.
What else?
I found out from Connie, as a girl, they moved around every 3 years, and when she was in New York, she played with Jim Henson's daughter. They went to the same school and played in the basement, got to play with the King Muppets.
Oh.
Okay, now, yeah. So I moved every 2-3 years.
Wow.
And the first question is, you're not a military, me either, Sears.
Yeah.
Sears?
Seriously,
No,
non-military?
Sears and Roebuck.
Oh,
That's
no.
witness protection program? Moved every 2 to 3 years is interesting also, and Jim Henson's Muppets. Oh, wow.
That was a cool place.
Oh, I bet. Tim.
I learned that Mike is bilingual. He speaks geek and English. So
So you speak, like, I'm a geek.
he works with software developers,
Uh-huh.
and he's the interface between the software developers and the real world.
Oh, wow.
So he speaks people person.
Yeah.
He's a geeky people person. So he speaks geek.
So, yeah, okay.
Speaks geek and English.
What else you guys got?
English.
I learned that Jeff and his entire family never wanted to come to Minnesota, but
Wait, that's 90% of us, so.
but they ended up here. But his great wish is that he'll never die here.
No.
Oh, you haven't been to one of my shows where I've died a few times. So you don't want to be buried here? You don't want to physically die here? There's a difference.
No, I want to finally get out of here where I'm not going to die here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here now.
Right.
That's fine. Just don't want to die.
We have an airport. We got-
There you go.
Where do you want to die?
Any place on here?
Miami.
Iowa?
He's not going to.
Or East Coast somewhere south.
Okay. No, that's actually pretty funny. It's not a lot you can do about it. Here comes a truck. Wants to die somewhere else. I don't know. Do you mind living here? Or you just don't want to die here? Seriously.
He wants out. I can tell.
I don't mind living here now.
Does your family know that you?
They're all of it. Yeah.
One of the guys who goes out
I
there,
know.
he never comes.
Very good.
Okay. What else? Any other gems?
Went to Cub Scouts with Ted Turner's house down in Atlanta area.
Okay, you went to Cub Scouts at Ted Turner's house?
Yeah.
Was it a like
Ted
Muppets in the
Turner.
basement thing? Or?
No, his son was Teddy Turner, and basically.
Oh, so Teddy Turner was a Boy Scout?
It was Cub Scout.
Oh, Cub Scout.
Yeah.
And
And Ted Turner was a scary man back then.
really,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
He was terrifying. Even to his family. So.
It's a cry for help is what I hear.
I think that was his first wife.
Okay. You knew a lot as a Cub Scout. You're very perceptive.
Free Fonda.
I think it's his first wife. Is that
Free
true?
Jane Fonda.
That time it is.
Free Fonda.
Okay, anything else?
Ellie here is creating an app with her brother, right?
We have a predictive analytics company for apps.
Okay.
So we
What does that mean?
we
You might
predict-
wait.
Can you tell me too?
So what is it?
We project customer lifetime value and give recommendations on ad spend to improve and optimize return on investment. So
Let's get the next one.
kind of, yeah, predictive analytics.
No,
We
but
take
that's
analytics
a
and make
situation where
predictions.
you could say what it is and then give an analogy for the people, the rest of us, so we would understand.
So the app market, there's tons and tons and tons of money in the app market, but it's super skewed. So just the top companies make all the money. Everyone else loses out. But the top companies make all the money because they have large teams of data scientists who help them optimize their app. So they are able to optimize the user experience, and they also know where they should be spending their marketing dollars. And our company levels the playing field by allowing the smaller studios to compete with the larger ones by giving them these insights that formerly only large companies could afford to get by hiring large teams of data scientists.
Got it.
I'm also a corporate lawyer. That's kind of on the
See this? Sorry. Okay. So you'd be like not a web developer, but an app developer.
No.
Okay, just
No,
a
no,
corporate
no.
one.
No, we serve app developers.
Serve app developers. So when you look at some of these things, are there any other ones? Yeah.
Jeff had moved from here, built a company out in California, sold that company to somebody back here, but their personalities of the two companies didn't mesh well. So it worked out for him, but not for the other instance.
Well, then you talk about the move to California, right? The lifestyle in California versus
Well,
Minnesota.
Our company was very much a relational culture, and they were very much transactional culture, and they would not kind of move out of that transactional mode even after they bought it. So what they bought us for, they never were able to accomplish.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of humor actually in how they reacted. What are some examples of how they reacted? We'll get a couple ideas, but when you look at like farm girls, like, huh? I mean, that really throws you off when you learn something about somebody you never would have expected, and it totally drops the guard down and gears you to that person for opening up. It's something that you didn't expect. I'm going to show you a couple things, then we're going to get into another exercise. If you have an idea, where does it go? You have an idea during the day. It's like, where do you put that idea so you don't lose it?
My catch-all notebook.
Catch-all notebook, paper,
Email myself.
email yourself. So when I started, what's that? Yeah, and here's where I'm going with this, is when I started stand-up 29 years ago, I would have remember the using bars? The blank bars?
Yeah.
And I would carry those with me, and my entire act was all over my house, everywhere. My wife, who's very organized, said, well, what if you put that together and maybe a notebook or something? And then those bastards who designed these said, oh, you could put marketing on both sides, so nowhere to write. So I had to come up with some new ideas. So whatever it is that you use it and use it all the time. When I'm talking about use it, anytime you have an idea that something might be funny or different, don't filter it, just write it down. So I use these a lot, put them in my back pocket. Some people use notebooks, the catch-alls, whatever it is, there's no wrong answer as long as you catch it. Chris Rock calls himself and leaves a message for himself. When I wrote for Gary Shandling, he used these exclusively, so I got starter, and I really like using these when I'm writing out a long story or a set. Jerry Seinfeld uses this in a specific pen. You know, whatever it is, keep a system because you want to capture these things. Kristen, we were talking about who we have an office with. She goes, I came up with the best opening for this presentation. We resolved everything. I said, great, did you write it down? She goes, no, I didn't. She can't remember it. It happens to all of us, right? I'm sure she figured it out, right? So I'll think about, oh, what was that bit? What was that thing? So you're going to start, one of the things you start capturing ideas, start telling stories about when you were growing up, the things that you would find that are interesting. Moving every 3 years, there's a lot there. Right? I moved 6 times before first grade. I went to 3 high schools and graduated early. You know, there's a lot of things from our perspective that people wouldn't understand that we might not think is that unusual, you know? So there's that. Keeping it safe. Joan Rivers had a card file of all her stuff. Some people keep it in Dropbox, texting yourself, emailing yourself, whatever it is. You're going to start thinking about any ideas, you're going to start capturing them. Now, the next thing, it's like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are, right? Now, who did not share anything about interesting ideas that I have not met before? You're easy today. I don't know who you are when we come up here.
Me?
Yes. Hey, I only got 20 minutes. Let's jump in. What's your name?
Jeff.
Jeff. How many people know Jeff?
No, we know.
Gust.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know him, I want you to think about, if you do know him, think about when he walks up, what's your first impression of him? Let me give you an example. So when I walk on stage the first time, people are measuring me up. When Jay Coughlin walked on stage, people measured him up, right? Right? Louis Anderson, if you know him, at the time he was 400 pounds. I don't know Louis really well from before I started stand-up. My brother used to write for him, and so I went and watched him at the comedy club. He walked up, he's 400 pounds at the time, up to the microphone stand, and people start to be a little uncomfortable. Doesn't say anything, waits a little longer. He said, oh, let me move the mic stand so you can see me. Literally the elephant in the room. So if I go up on stage today, obviously I've lost hair. 30 years ago I had a lot of hair. And I'm speaking to, you know, a younger group. They're going to judge me before I open my mouth. So on your sheets there, where it says, who do you think you are? Why don't you write, if you never had met him before, Jeff, right?
Yeah.
You never met Jeff before, what's your initial impression? What does he do? How old is he? Is he married? Does he have kids? What do you think some of his hobbies are? Just write a few things down. It's uncomfortable, isn't it?
Makes me curious.
Yeah. Did you get any reaction from people on comments?
No.
They're talking, they're hammered by now.
Yeah, oh yeah. France
But you can talk right to
France
it.
has
There you
liquor?
go. France has a wine bar.
And the Tonka has liquor. What are we going to have? Mad Dog
Minnetonka
23?
has, that's what
Yeah,
you're.
Tom gets a keg.
Yes.
Okay.
Be there tomorrow.
That's the sailing.
What else? Okay. You guys got some ideas? Tell me about him. What do you, when you see Jeff, what do you,
Bill Gates. Looks like Bill Gates.
okay?
I was gonna say geek.
Geek?
I put speaks geek.
What does he
Conservative.
do? What does he do? Conservative? What kind of thing do you?
Plays chess.
Yeah. Plays chess.
Introverted and quirky.
Introverted and quirky.
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
A gamer.
Gamer.
I
What
say
else?
funny and very verbal.
I call you a talker.
Affable.
Affable. Okay, Jeff, what is it that you do?
A software website company.
Okay.
But I feel like the non-geek selling for the geeks. I'm involved with a startup.
Well, you said you're the non-geek. So I'm okay. I'm just,
I'm not the expert.
no, go ahead.
I'm involved with a financial startup.
Uh-huh.
What else did you say?
No, that's hobbies. Do you have any more hobbies? Do you play chess?
That sounds good to me, but no.
What hobbies do you have?
Love politics, love music, a broad range of music.
He's an Xer.
I'm an Xer. Yeah, he got that an Xer. What age do you think he is?
He's in his 40s.
Wait, anybody else? Andrew,
Yes.
Late 40s?
No.
how old are you?
15.
Are you really?
Oh.
You look
young.
See, that's something right there. You can even say something like, hey, I'm 50 years old, which is great, look young. But then I go shopping at the mall, all these young girls trying to pick you up. So there's some things that we thought about him, that we perceived about him that were off, right? And sometimes you have something that might be obvious that you want to address right on the front end. You can say, hey, I look like an attorney, or I might look like a conservative guy, but, so, or somebody will take the opposite in a way. Like I think Roseanne Barr used to have, a bit about you should go up at your mama 3 and whatever it was, but there's some address the elephant in the room, maybe make a joke about self-effacing about who you are, and that's one of the ways kind of break the ice, because people are measuring you up right away. I can't believe you're 50, honestly. You don't.
Yeah.
Does he look 50?
No,
No.
not at all.
That's good.
Yeah, I've been using my product so long, I just look younger because of it. Right? Okay, give him a hand. We'll just do that one time. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about? A lot of times you feel like this is the way I am, and this is the way I dress, and this is the way people are. You really have to understand your audience and know who your audience is. So we're going to break down a little bit about humor, and humor comes in styles. Who has favorite comics that they like?
Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson, who is. I have 2 pictures in my office. One's Johnny Carson.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Rodney Dangerfield.
Yeah,
Okay. He's a Jewish guy.
I'm old.
No, I love Rodney. I love Rodney.
He's dead.
Oh, man.
Johnny's dead.
Okay, Rodney Dangerfield. Does everybody know who Rodney Dangerfield is, right? I mean, that's not a character you can make up. You can't just walk up and do Rodney's act. Who else do you like?
Stephen Wright.
Stephen Wright. Yeah, Stephen Wright is a very unique character, very dry, right? So if Rodney Dangerfield, the comic, were to go up and try to be like Stephen Wright, that wouldn't work. So it's identifying who you are as a person going up and presenting. If anybody's been in sales when you first start out, your sales manager will tell you what you're supposed to be like. And people can smell it on you. Find a style that fits you and work it around or within that sales script, as it were. So some people are really high energy, have a lot of character, like Rodney Dangerfield. And a lot of us can't sustain that. It's not believable. So people can do characters. You don't have to do it now, but anybody do voices. I think that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I can do my Jewish grandmother. It's not relevant. So it's a way of conveying. It's a way of conveying a message and getting yourself to stand out. Dry, topical, political. Right, Stephen Wright, Mitch Hedberg, which is a younger version of that. I'm very dry.
Another center said Louis C.K.
Louis C.K. is kind of is interesting because I don't know if he likes Louis C.K. or not. He's a brilliant storyteller. And at the end of the year, he does a 1-hour show. At the end of the year, Louis C.K. throws out the entire set. Nobody does that. He throws out the entire set. It starts with a whole new one. So Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock will maybe put in 10 new minutes at a time and filter out. So yeah, Louis C.K. is just like, this is who I am. I'm not going to put out anything for you. Just as, so he's very real.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon is really goofy.
Goofy, energetic.
He can get away with it. People expect that from him. So identify who you are. Props. Some people like using props. I mean, once you meet you with a toothbrush, never will forget that. Now, if you had a hacksaw, yeah.
Wouldn't forget that either.
You need to cut off a limb, this is all you can afford. Jeff Dunham has a Puppet, I would suggest that. Impressions, music, if you can play music or sing, not necessarily in your sales context, but that's also a great way to stand up. You have to identify who you are and what you're comfortable with. Sometimes it's matching a comedian who's out there. If you play instruments, a lot of times you will play with a song that you like or an artist that you like. It's the same way as comedy. It's also the same way in sales. You find a method that you like, and then you eventually create your own. Comedy formula. Okay, so the first one is comparison. I'm going to take you through a few formula things, and you'll get an idea. This is kind of the nuts and bolts of comedy to show you how it works, and I can show you more later. Comparisons are when a person, place, or thing is compared with another. Like Jimmy Gaffigan, have you ever been to the Waffle House? It's like going to fast state restaurant that serves waffles. Okay, that was misspelled, but you get the idea. You got to fair. State fair. Yeah, there you go. So basically, Gaffigan's not funny. But here's another one from because I mistyped that one. Similes is when something is similar to another, where growing up on a farm, the farm girl is similar to making some sort of connection. And this one he's saying playing frisbee with the 5-year-old is amazingly similar to running after a frisbee. You can read through the next one because it's a longer one. It's the last one. It's time to move. Okay, and Dimitri Martin, I don't know if you've seen Dimitri Martin, who was the really amazing observational outlooks. The easiest time to add insult to injury is when you're signing somebody's cat. So those are, Seinfeld obviously is the master of observation. I'm going to skip 2 down. My wife told me sex is better on holiday. That wasn't a very nice postcard to receive. Okay. I'm going down to mimicking, acting out what you talked about. I'm going to read that one. It's too long for me. There's your Stephen Wright. You'll hear comedy becomes in the magic number of 3. I was very fortunate to have an older brother growing up, my brother Joe, and I always followed him, and I always followed in his footsteps. 1, he wore overalls. I wore overalls. 2, he lit off fireworks in the attic. I was hit by fireworks. Then I was rushed to the emergency room. So the key thing, and this is kind of like this is something I teach over a 6-week thing that in a comedy class that I don't teach anymore, but a couple of really quick books. If you're interested in learning more about comedy, then I have more stuff here. Stand-up comedy, the book. This is the Bible. This has been around for 30 years. Judy Carter. Then the Comedy Bible, which now is the Bible. Judy Carter. Business storytelling for dummies, which is the Wiley brand. This is good stuff. Here. Talk about know your audience. Anybody go to Catholic school? Yeah. I was Jewish, but my mom was a teacher there, and I wanted to be like my friends, and so I even went to confession. Forgive me, Father, for saying that paid retail. I figure out where I can fit this in. I don't have it here. So perspective. All of this is about putting things in perspective. When you're meeting with people, they're very busy. You try to put things in perspective. What's important to them? What's important to that person that you're in front of, right? It's not just having the best thing. It's like, how does it affect their life? How does it make their world feel better? My father taught me about perspective. He said, you don't necessarily have to have the best of everything, you need to make the best of everything. And he said that when I asked for a raise in my allowance. My father we spread his ashes last September in 2 places. The first was in South Carolina, where half my family's from. The other in the Midwest, where we had my dad lived near a dairy farm. And he loved both places so much. And when we spread his ashes, porpoises came out of the water outside Beaufort, South Carolina. It was a beautiful thing. And then we spread the other ashes at the dairy farm. So a callback. You'll see that one of the things is a callback. One of the things that I did is the bracelet, right? Remember that? I said I'm 1 term away from having a bracelet, charm bracelet, and then the next one was, hey, nice shirt. Did you get a new bracelet? Right? That's a callback. And the Wall Street Journal joke. This is my son was born. I don't have time to do the whole thing, but my son was delivered by firefighters, and in Seattle. So the thing about my son was he was delivered at home by firefighters with 1 push, no drugs, so we named him Luge. And that's my son there blowing off the hose, like celebrate life. That's what this is really about. It's not going from client to client. It's about enjoying life, celebrating life. And that's one of the reasons I like coming here, because we looked at getting our own studio, and it's like, how do we just love it here and love the staff? And you walk in and they feel good, and then you get candy. The only bad thing about this place is that we're on the 2nd floor. Because I got in this morning, and a lady goes, 2nd floor, please. I'm like, really? With stairs out of order? Got to the 2nd floor. I pushed her in a wheelchair out. So that's my son, Max. And see this kid right there? It's pretty pissed. He looks intense. He reads the Wall Street Journal every day. That's his. I was hoping to get a bigger laugh. Let's see, what else do I have for you guys? I wrote this presentation for you guys. So it's a little goofy.
Kind of like the things we do here.
Was that?
Right? It's kind of like the things we do here.
Yeah. Here, that's intended. Getting around other people, it's hard to do that when you're on your own. These people that I work with who are now on cruise ships and theaters, on television, all of them on television. We started together 30 years ago, and we go to a little Mexican restaurant and just share ideas, and it's a mastermind. We didn't know what it was called, but we have our best jokes from each other, right? So sharing things together, and I encourage you to do that. I'm going to start a mastermind. I haven't figured it out yet. Like once a week on Fridays for 2 hours, where I teach kind of like 30 minutes, and we all get together and workshop some ideas. So we have almost no minutes left. How many do I have left? 2?
2.
I'm passing this up. I'm going to do it real quick. So my wife and I want to have a baby, so we decided to adopt a baby girl, and it's hard to find a baby girl. Just adoption is tough now. It's becoming more difficult. But we found one. Apparently there's a little politics in Washington, D.C. 2 people who used to love each other, hate each other now. And they got together in a tryst. And here we go. That's fine. All right, so here's my offer to you, because I just left you with a bunch of stuff. You're going to walk out going, what the hell is that? Because it's something I teach in a long period of time. I'm happy to give you each 30 minutes, whoever wants it. 30 minutes of my time just to sit down. My office is right here, and say, what are you trying to write? What are you trying to work on? Who are you trying to communicate to? What are some ideas you have? Is there a possible joke you're going to work on? I'll sit down with you for 30 minutes and show you what I do. And worst case scenario, you walk out with some good ideas on where to go from here. So if anybody's interested, happy to do that and take candy. So I highlighted some times that are on my schedule. If anybody wants them, just write your name and then phone number underneath in case I need to reschedule. And then you'll have my number to reschedule. But thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
It was fun to meet you guys. Some of you I haven't met before. So thanks for coming out.
I'm afraid you're going to shake my shoulder otherwise. Sounds good. In fact, this morning I've been recovering from a broken shoulder, so I decided, I was looking at the calendar and I saw this and I said, there's nothing I like more than fun. So I actually came out. wanted to be present here. And that's kind of how, when I looked at our business all these years, it started to be a lot of laughs and a lot of fun. And the more people we have in the community, the more fun it is. There's nothing I love better than when we go out and we see people interacting and there's a lot of laughter. And then there's always that one guy that's like, could you please make them be quiet? You know what? That's not what it's all about. I'm here because we love the laughter, we love the interaction, and I think that's what all of you love too. So thank you so much. Just wanted to talk about a few of our upcoming events for May, because May is a really big month. It always is, and we always have a lot of fun. We're going to be kicking off the Park Networking is next Thursday. If you haven't been with us, there's usually a group of about, 25 or 30 people. Get out and explain about your business. Get over there. That's how you get it, okay? Park Networking on Thursday from 9 to 10. On Tuesday, May 9th, we will be networking maniacs, won't we, Lisa? Because we have a booth at the New Business Minnesota Resource Expo. It's over at the Earl Brown Center, which is way off the beaten track, but there's a lot of great people, and it's a free event. And if you want to come, we are in booth right when you walk in. We got a double booth. We always have a lot of fun there. So on Friday, May 12th, we're going to be sponsoring the Girls in Action. We're a platinum sponsor. Any of you have seen Dr. Verna Price. She's part of our community, and we do a lot of things with her Girls in Action group, which is girls in Minneapolis, and they're on a good track to get to college, to accomplish things that their sisters and brothers have not, and we really love her, and it's going to be one of our favorite events of the year, and that's on Friday morning, May 12th. If anyone would like to join us, we have a table of 8, and it is, again, in the north.
Yeah, Marriott, Minneapolis, the Northwest in Brooklyn Park there.
In Brooklyn Park, the Northwest Marriott.
Yep.
Judy, you should come with us. We really have a fun morning on those there. I'd love to have you come with, especially because we were born on a farm. You really didn't relate to a lot of these inner city girls like I do. That sounds good. Little do they know, when they sit down and I talk about my business and all these other kinds of things like you, I always thought you were probably from someplace that was not farm oriented, and they don't see me as someone who's coming at them with anybody from the inner city of St. Paul, that's for sure. So it's a fun event. On the 16th of May, Busy will be training harnessing the power of mobile internet usage. That's from 11 to 1 here at Park, and we have Thirsty Thursday because we have the kegerator. You know all about that at Minnetonka. So look at all of these events. They're free. They're on your calendar. Next month, Jason Jones, the coaching hour. Show me the clients, how to attract great clients. I think that's going to be a really good one. Our PowerLunch, that's our May and June. Patty Kittisbell, the Human Resource Prescription, Revenues for People and Challenges in Business. And then in July, we're out this far. Meg Miller.
She's right here.
Meg Miller, how are you? You're going to do BAM, Business Affairs Management Plan, and equals your peace of mind. So if you want to be a presenter, remember, all of our presenters are members of our community, telling about their businesses to other members of our community. Get in here if you want to sign up, let your managers know, or Lisa, or any of the people that are part of our Office Center team. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really glad I came out, David. You were a load of fun. Thank you.